Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the French Tier 10 medium tank, the AMX 30B. It is coming into Blitz as a collectible tank, and I believe it's coming out this morning, and it's coming out as crates. Great. I'm not going to be getting one, in other words. I've been stung too many times with crates. But I wanted to make a video anyway, because there's going to be people interested to see what the tank is like, and if it's as broken as it was in super test. Because when this tank was super tested, it was crazy good, and I do mean damn crazy good. Which I can report, no, it's not as broken as it was during super test. It had amazing damage per minute, it had that rock hard turret, and it had the same sort of mobility as a Batchat. So how have Wargaming balanced that? Well, basically, they've smacked its damage per minute right down. Now, when I first saw the damage per minute on this tier 10 medium tank, I instantly went, oh, that's not a good thing. 2,671 damage per minute on a tier 10 medium tank. That's not good figures. Now, when you jam on a load of equipment, specifically the hot coffee, pate, and a gun rammer, so those provisions and equipment will boost your damage per minute to just over 3,000. To be exact, that will boost your damage per minute to 3,041. A fully stocked up WZ121, which is the lowest damage per minute medium, has 2,999. In other words, less than 50 difference damage per minute between this and the 121. So when you first read that and when you first see that, you instantly think, oh, this is not a good sign for this tank. But you still have your 10 degrees of gun depression, you still have a rock hard turret. Granted, it's got a huge weak spot on the one right hand side, but when you keep moving, that's a difficult target, and you'd be surprised just how many bounces you can get on that turret. And on top of that, something like this will quite happily overtake an STB1 and very easily keep up with the Batchats. It's quite surprising how good the mobility is in this thing. Granted, if you try to turn full speed, you are more than likely going to drift, which can be a bit of a pain if you're trying to circle something and you're coming in at full chat. But as long as you time it correctly, in theory, you can gracefully drift around something. And then that just looks cool. But it is challenging to do. All that being said, this thing is not a brawler like that E50 in any shape or form. Go up against the T62A when you're both on the flats, you're gonna get your butt handed to you. But stick this thing on a ridge at, say, short to medium range, that turret, it just gets stupid amount of bounces. Like when we were talking to Wargaming about the really bad damage per minute, they were like, yeah, but the turret is really, really good. And our response was, okay, M48 pattern. That thing's got a monster turret without that giant weak spot, and it has the higher damage per minute with the same caliber gun and same gun depression. Okay, there's 1 degree difference in the gun depression, but that's neither here nor there. That being said, though, this thing is as fast as a Batchat, and it has a low silhouette. And I actually can't get over how bouncy the turret is. It's very surprising. And I'm going to do something which sounds strange. I'm going to say, credit to Wargaming. They balanced it quite well. Like, when you look at that damage per minute, you think, oh yeah, they've done this thing again, where they've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. No, that drop in damage per minute surprisingly has balanced it. Quite well, in fact. So I kind of got to give Wargaming credit for that. I mean, we give them enough stick when they screw up. It's nice to see a tank which has come in and is not blatantly OP to sell it. But it's still a very good tank. And, in my opinion, it's a fantastic looking tank. They've got one of these in Bovington, and when you walk around one of these, it's a wicked looking machine. This game, by the way, is very, very intense. It's a good game to watch. So I hope you enjoy this replay as much as I enjoyed playing this game. I also think this replay gives a very good example as to how this tank should be played. Constantly trying to use that gun depression, relying on the accuracy of this thing, and relying on the turret of it. Not relying on a damage per minute medium brawler, and not allowing anything to get too close to you, because they can match or even outdo your damage per minute. And in this game, I constantly relocate. I constantly pop ridges like this, just showing off my turret, getting shots in, and then relocating as quick as I can, which is bloody fast considering the mobility on this thing. This tank does have some serious weaknesses in terms of competitors though. Like I said, a T62A, both of them on the flat, will literally tear this thing apart. A Chieftain? Nah, you don't even want to go anywhere near one of them things. It will rip one of these limb from limb. It's got better damage per minute, it's got better alpha per shot, it's got a tougher turret. It's got just as much gun depression. What it lacks is the mobility, so if you find yourself dealing with a Chieftain, you need to take advantage of your mobility. And that is your saving grace with this tank, is the mobility. If they left the mobility something like an STB1, put it the same as that, yeah, you're going to need that extra damage per minute. And who knows, once more and more people get access to this tank, you may need that extra damage per minute. It may get buffed in the future. But I honestly think it would be broken if they buff it. Especially if they buff it back to what it was in Super Test. Because it's a great tank. Even in its current form with its low damage per minute for a medium. Or rather, much lower than average damage per minute in a medium tank. It's a brilliant tank. I've really enjoyed playing this and testing this out. And I am very pleasantly surprised to see it's a very well balanced tank. It does surprise me, and it does make me very happy, because if you're a player who knows how to take advantages of a tank's advantage properly, that sounds very strange, but you know what I mean. If you know how to take advantage of those things, it's mobility. That was a stupid move, by the way. I just lost 375 hit points just by accidentally attacking that tank. And it's just me and this Leo left. But if you're a player who takes advantages of that gun depression, of that mobility, and you know how to do that, you're going to do really, really well in this tank. If you're a player, or you see a player who has no idea how to use those things and just treats it like, I don't know, something which is fast and just drives around like a lunatic, they're gonna get absolutely nailed and ruined. And as it happens, that's exactly as it should be. A Chieftain is a fantastic tank. It's brilliant. Yet, come across a player who just sits in the open with it, and they are quite easy to devastate and ruin. Come across someone who's using a Ridge, using that 350mm thick turret, and popping just over. They're a nightmare to deal with. But this is exactly as it should be. In terms of this game, by the way, I just lost my buddy in the Leo, who was a great team player. That's not sarcasm or anything like that. He was a brilliant team player. But that's left me in a 1 versus 4 scenario. And as I've already mentioned numerous times, my one strength here is my mobility. And as you can see, it is damn mobile. And as I mentioned earlier, when you turn quickly, when you go on full speed, you will drift. But using that to your advantage, you turn a little bit earlier, and I'm now at the almost maximum view range, which means I am unspotted until I shot them. And they're the things you're taking advantage of. You're using it at long range, you're popping out, making those long range shots. Like here, we don't have epic damage per minute, but what we do have is a Ridge to cover us. We just poke out. We are a tiny target for this tank, and we have a very good gun in terms of accuracy to just pop around and finish him off. So we've used our mobility in this scenario, we've used our maximum view range, we've used our camo value, and we're using Ridges constantly to protect ourselves. IS-7 is making a break for us now, which again means using my mobility to get away from him. Also, we don't know where the grill is at this point in time. Now we do. So my job is to try and flank it, deal with both of those tanks in the next 1 minute 20 something seconds. I could YOLO in, risk it in terms of being one-shot by the grill, or I could try and play it a little bit more sensibly, get away, use my camo value again, use my view range, and then try and deal with the grill, and then try and deal with the IS-7. The problem I've got is if I did just go in, I would have been out in the open, could have taken a shot off the grill, could have taken a shot from the IS-7 as well, and that's game over. The other problem I've got is time. I don't have the time now. I have to get busy. I have to get stuck in. We bounced a shot from the grill, and we did manage to finish him off. And the IS-7 is right by here, with a large chunk of his hit points left. I bounce my shot off his front lower plate. He penetrates me. Next shot, I only do track damage. There is exactly 30 seconds left at this point in time, and he has huge amounts of hit points left for that period of time. All I have to do is make every single shot count and not get shot in return. And as long as I can keep going around him without letting his gun point at me and making sure all my shots count, I should do this. But again, it's stupidly close. Look at the time. And I think it's fairly obvious at this point. Look at the reload. I'm not going to finish him in time. 2 more seconds, I would have got a shot off, and I would have finished him, and it wouldn't have been a draw, and I would have had just over 7,000 damage, and I would have won that 1 versus 4. And I was kicking myself at the end of that one. 2 seconds, that is all I needed. 2 seconds. I fired 2 shots, 1 only did track damage, 1 bounced. If one of those went in, that would have been a win. If I just didn't delay for 2 more seconds, I would have won that. Regardless, though, I really enjoyed that playing that game, even if it was a draw, not a win. 1 versus 4, I didn't technically get the collarbone of, but I was very happy knowing that if I just had a little bit more time, I would have done it. 2 seconds! That's literally all I needed. Watching it back, it's like, ugh. It's my own fault for delaying the time I did, but I could also argue something like an STB with that little bit quicker reload could have done that. But then you could also argue something like an STB wouldn't have had the mobility or the turret to survive as long as it did in that scenario. Nonetheless, I really enjoyed that game, win, lose or draw. On top of that, I think this is a brilliant tank. I think it's a very good looking tank, and I think it's surprisingly well balanced considering the low damage per minute. And the more I've talked throughout this video, the more I've thought, God, I really want this tank, but I'm not going to own one because I'm not taking a gamble on the crates. But I really want one. But you never know. In the future, it might become available in stores without crates. At the moment, I'm not gambling on crates myself. Hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.